G'day folks and welcome to an Oz Cyclone Chasers Cyclone video update for the nation today, the 22nd of January 2015. My name's Chris Nitzo. This update sponsored by a major sponsor up here, Campbell Scientific Australia, when measurements matter. The current talking point in tropical weather is the Queensland trough and upper low, creating a massive rain event for the state. However, we do also need to mention some pretty strong storms that developed over the NT today, and then we need to look into the future and see what cyclone potential we have in store. Now, just letting you know, usually around Australia Day, I actually do a little bit of a supplement to one of these videos, and that's all to do with the Goldfield Ashes. It's a big cricket carnival, the biggest one, I believe, in the world, in the Charters Towers area. And so what will happen at the end of this update is we'll have another 4 or 5 minutes tagged on for that. So if you want to know a little bit more about the weather you're going to be experiencing in the Ashes out at Charters Towers this Australia Day long weekend, stick around at the end of the broadcast. Also, don't forget, if you like our video updates, click the sign up button here and it'll take you to a subscribe page to subscribe to Oz Cyclone Chasers and help us do what we do best, and that is chase cyclones. So I guess there's no prizes at all for guessing where the bulk of the activity lies. We've got this big trough system in through here, a very deep low attached to it. We've got another trough system hitting the Queensland coast, or getting close to the Queensland coast, just off it. Now, what's happening is we've got moist air just to the north of this trough system, to the east of this trough system. Now, on top of that, though, we need to look above it, and above it we've got an upper level low. Now, an upper level low is just a cold pool of air that's rotating in a clockwise direction. You can see the upper level low here shown on this Brisbane Storm Chasers model map, and you can see the system lies pretty well right over the area between Longreach, Charleville and Emerald, and the clockwise winds around it. Now, what you can see in the shading here, the slightly lighter coloured shading shows us areas of cooler upper level air. And what happens here is that at the surface, we have winds that come in from the northeast or east to northeast, and at the surface we got winds coming in like this. Now, that air that comes in is really, really hot and really moist. Now, what happens is the air rises. Now, because the upper levels are cooler, the upper levels will enhance the rising motion of that air, and therefore we get very, very strong rain periods, very strong thunderstorms. Now, we get that in two specific areas. We get that right along the coast where it's all happening, where that air first hits the coastline and the coastal ranges, and the second area we get it is where right on or just to the east of this coldest level of upper air. So anywhere in that region is where we're experiencing the heaviest rain today. So we can see some strong thunderstorms up here over the Northern Territory on the latest radar imagery thanks to weatherzone.com.au. We can also see along the Queensland coast the bulk of the activity here really now coastal, and we've got those extra storms that are pushing in just to the east of the upper level low. And you can start to see a little bit of a rotating motion here on the radar showing you where that upper level low is. Now, that upper level low is going to slip in this direction here to the east-southeast, so it's going to slip out this way, and what it's going to also start doing is weakening. So what we'll see through the northern parts of Queensland is southwesterly dry winds coming through and drying out the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and so that'll be the end of it after overnight tonight for northern Queensland, but then it all comes back for northern Queensland. However, the southeast corner of Queensland, that upper level air starts to get cooler and cooler over the next 24 hours, so we'll see. And across Queensland today, what we've got is areas of very heavy rainfall here along the Capricornia coastline. So this is to 9 a.m. this morning, so a lot of this fell overnight last night. And we had very heavy falls along the Herbert Lower Burdekin coastline as well. Now, up until 9 o'clock today, the Mackay area missed out. However, since that time, look at this, massive falls on the Herbert Lower Burdekin and the Central Coast Whitsundays. Continuation of moderate to heavy rainfall across the Capricornia districts. And there is a severe weather warning out for this system over the next 24 hours. Over the NT2, we've seen some pretty decent rainfall coming from some of that storm activity today. We've had Warrawai here with 62 millimetres since 9 o'clock this morning. So some very heavy falls coming from those thunderstorms that have pushed basically northwestwards from the Gulf and are also being aided by the trough system we mentioned. Rainfall for tomorrow, we can see that across Queensland, the bulk of the rain now is located here in the southeast corner. You can see most of the rain is now pushed offshore for Queensland tomorrow. However, there will be just the isolated shower and storm activity, very coastal here along Queensland's coast, but really the enhanced activity Capricornia southwards, particularly the southeast coast district tomorrow. Possibly some enhanced rainfall across very close to Darwin tomorrow, according to the computer model guidance overall, is showing this area here in the northwest coast getting very active tomorrow. Pilbara, we're looking at isolated showers and storms in the area too, some of them making the coastline. On Saturday, you can see most of the state starts to dry out. Still a little bit of enhanced shower activity across the southeast corner, but nothing too major there. Most of the really heavy stuff is tomorrow. Across the northwestern parts of the peninsula, we can see enhanced rainfall there along a very strong monsoonal surge there. They've got very strong monsoonal winds there. Now, as we get back into the Pilbara, we're going to see less chance of those storms making it to the coast on Saturday than we do on the Friday. On the Sunday, we see storms return to most of Queensland's east and northeastern half as a little bit of moisture penetrates back in. Look, the next storm outbreak won't be anywhere near as big as this one. We don't have the upper low this time around. We've only got a surface trough, a deep surface trough here, so it's only going to be pushing the surface winds, surface moist winds. It's going to be helping to uplift those moist winds, but we don't have that cold upper air to really aid in the development of heavy rainfall from those storms. Across the Kimberley, we're going to see an increase in shower and storm activity as a new trough system builds in through the eastern half of WA, and the top end is going to see a fairly dry day with only isolated activity on Sunday. Then as we get into your Australia Day Monday, we can see storm activity now becoming quite scattered and widespread on Queensland's eastern half and eastern seaboard. Across the territory, we see an increase in shower and storm activity, particularly around the central parts of the territory. Not so much on the northwest and northern coastlines there on the Monday. And the Kimberley and the eastern interior parts of WA are going to see enhanced rainfall. In the continued battle to see which state is going to name Tropical Cyclone Lam the second Australian tropical cyclone of the season, we have the northwest WA probably a slight favourite over the eastern half of Queensland here. On the Sunday, early part of February there, Sunday the 1st of February, we've got some sort of motion or signal from the models of a tropical low forming up here in or near the North Kimberley, so in the Timor Sea area. Now, it's not a done deal though, because Queensland's got their own little low to worry about here late next week, just a weak circulation out here in the far eastern Coral Sea, or probably developing close to North Queensland and then pushing further to the east. So that might be something to watch as we get into the early part of February and see as the little model war goes on here between WA and Queensland. The other issue is that we could actually see a cyclone way out here in the central Indian Ocean, which is still part of WA's area of responsibility. So WA's got a little bit of a unfair advantage over Queensland in this little battle, because their little area of responsibility goes from about here all the way out here to the west. But there's no signal that is showing any meaningful coastal crossing of any system in the next 7 to 10 days, folks. But things can change, and we'll keep an eye on things just in case they do. So that's all we got time for today. Remember, subscribers, if you are from Western Australia or from the Northern Territory, your subscriber video updates will be on tomorrow. And if you're from Queensland, we'll have another video update on Saturday. We had an in-depth video for you today, earlier on today. So just check that out if you're interested more about that rainfall in the southeast corner and to see what sort of amounts we're talking about. Alright, that ends our normal broadcast. Now what we're going to do is specifically talk about the Charters Towers Goldfield Ashes. So stick around if you're interested in that. Otherwise, we'll talk to you again on Tuesday. We'll talk again on Monday. Have a great weekend. The good old Charters Towers Goldfield Ashes. Lots of memories, lots of fun. Let's talk about the weather for them this weekend. So normally we've got fields all the way from Charters Towers up here to the north, down here to the west, down here to the east. So these are the areas that have received a fair amount of rainfall, but nothing that would consider calling the Ashes off in any way. So Charters Towers, 20 mils today. They copped about 20 or 30 the other day as well. And they've copped a little bit more today. So look, the overall, folks, it's been good because it's going to settle the dust. Otherwise, it would have been very dry, dusty, and yuck out there. So it's going to settle the dust there. You're going to be playing on some fairly slow fields, slowish outfields because of the recent rain. And most you'll be playing on non-turf pitches anyway. Most you'll be playing on concrete or astro, so it doesn't really matter. Those of you playing on a bit of turf will obviously depend on how the pitch has been prepared given the rainfall that they've had through the week. Alright, so on to the weather. Most of you'll be arriving in Charters Towers tomorrow at around about lunchtime or about that around that period. You're going to be met with a fairly dry day tomorrow because it's going to be very hot at the surface, but up above in the upper levels of the atmosphere, it's going to be way too dry for any sort of rainfall tomorrow. So you're going to be probably met with some fairly blue skies. And if we look at the actual cloud cover tomorrow, nothing in the morning. The convection will try to build as we get into the afternoon, so you can see here this white shading, and it'll look a bit threatening, but there won't be any meaty cumulus going on there. So it'll all be fair weather sort of stuff. It'll try to get going, as I said, but it's just going to be way too dry up there. So the cloud overnight will clear. As we get into the business end of the carnival now, we get into Saturday, which is when we see games beginning. So around about 7 a.m. Nothing. 10 a.m. nothing. 1 p.m. we'll start to see some convective showers building up way out to the west. As we get into 4 p.m. there will be some spotty convection going on. Now, we're not expecting any of that to be really heavy. It won't last too long. So if you do happen to be unlucky enough to get one of these little convective showers, they're not going to last over you. It shouldn't be a case of calling the game off. It should just be a case of either play through it because it's not going to be very heavy, or simply just take a minute or two to have a break. Now, the concerning part of this, though, is that as we get into Saturday evening, we're looking at some more significant stuff developing around Charters Towers there. So this is between 4 and 7 p.m. So if you can get your game over with early, that'll be the best bet. Otherwise, you might run the risk of copping one of these showers, and these ones will be a little bit stronger than the ones early in the afternoon. All right, now as we get into Saturday night, the festivities shouldn't be hampered too much by rainfall. By that overnight period, everything is hunky-dory. Now, as we get into tomorrow on the Sunday morning, we've got 7 a.m., 10 a.m., nothing. By 1 p.m., once again, we start to see a little bit more convection this time around. On the 4 p.m. time slot, though, we see some very heavy thunderstorm activity developing in and around Charters Towers on the computer models. Now, the computer models are pretty clear on this, that we will see thunderstorms around Charters Towers on 4 p.m. Now, whether or not it goes smack bang right over the top like it's showing here, well, we can't say. We can only speculate, but that's what the computer models are showing right now. There's going to be some strong storms on Sunday afternoon in and around Charters Towers. Whether they hit your particular field and whether they hit your particular game, well, who knows? All right, but that's going to be the case, and those storms will move off towards the coast. Some of them will actually make it to the coast. There's going to be just enough steering to get those onto the coast there on Sunday afternoon and evening. Now, as we get into Sunday night, you'll continue to see some showers and storms continue to fire up here out to the west, because we do have a fairly deep trough system, and now we've got the moisture back in the mid-levels as well. As we get into Sunday morning, and we can see that by 9 or 10 a.m. there's going to be some isolated showers, probably remnants of the stuff that was going on the night before. But then by 1 p.m., look at this, big rainfall developing again. So very heavy convection developing again across the Charters Towers region. And you can see that on Monday early afternoon. And then by mid-afternoon, you've got basically a line of storms developing. So, look, it's not great news. The first day of the carnival should be fantastic. It should go off without a hitch. The second day of the carnival is not looking great, but at least the thunderstorms are looking a little more patchy. The third day of the carnival is looking very, very rainy indeed, and we're looking at more of a line of storms building right over the top of the towers and then extending southwards. So that is going to be a bit of an issue, I think, on the Monday, but hopefully most of the games by Monday afternoon will be over and your weekend won't be hampered too much. But that's the forecast for the Ashes. We'll just have a quick look at temperatures that you're going to be expecting there in Charters Towers. It's not pretty. So temperatures tomorrow, they're certainly going to heat up a lot more than today, and you can see that here. We're looking at temperatures of between around the 33 to 36 mark around the towers, and particularly if you're a little bit further to the west of that, or you're around maybe Selheim, you might see conditions just a little bit less than that, about 33 degrees. And as we get to Mingala, things obviously cool down a lot more. I'm not sure if they do have any fields in Mingala this year. All right, now as we go into Saturday, the business end of the time frame, things are going to get even hotter. So we're looking at 33 to 36 again for the towers itself. But if you're on one of those fields just to the south, 10, 15k south or 10, 15k north on the highway there, you're looking at some even hotter conditions there. Now, if you do happen to have a field back towards Balfs Creek, there is going to be just an area around the valley there that's going to be a little cooler. On the Sunday, we'll continue to see those temperatures, 33 to 36. Look, I've been to Ashes carnivals where temperatures have been around the 40. So count yourselves lucky, folks. This is quite calm, or quite tame conditions for the Charters Towers area. But once again, you can see if you do happen to be a bit further south, you might get a hotter field. A little bit further to the west, you might actually get a cooler field because you're a little bit closer to all that convection. On the Monday, the heat really gets in here, and this is probably one of the reasons why we're looking at such a big storm build-up Monday, is because we've got a little bit more heating in the area. So still, if you're in Charters Towers itself, 33 to 36 is your target there. But just to the south again, you're looking at some hotter conditions, and those hotter conditions really building further to the north this time around. It's nothing that a few beverages can't fix, I'm sure, that sort of temperature range. So that's all we got time for. That's your weather update for the Goldfield Ashes. Good luck for the teams playing, but most of all, enjoy yourselves. It's one of those carnivals. It's not hyper competitive, and it's a chance to have a great weekend with your mates. That's all we got time for today at Oz Cyclone Chasers. We'll talk to you on Monday night.